Have you ever had one small moment change your entire day? Maybe a smile from a stranger, maybe a simple hello, or maybe a missed bus. Today, I want to tell you a real-life English story that begins with an ordinary morning and ends with something completely unexpected. And as you listen, see if you can imagine yourself inside this story. Because what happened next surprised everyone. Emma opened her eyes when her alarm clock started ringing. It was Monday morning. Outside her window, the sky was gray. The room felt cold. For a few seconds, she stayed in bed and stared at the ceiling. She didn't want to get up. She didn't want to go to work. She didn't want to face another busy day. But life doesn't stop. So Emma slowly sat up, stretched her arms, and walked to the kitchen. She made a cup of coffee. The smell filled the apartment. Normally, coffee made her feel better. But not today. Something felt strange. Something felt heavy inside her. She couldn't explain it. After breakfast, she got dressed, picked up her bag, and left the apartment. The streets were already busy. Cars moved slowly through traffic. People hurried toward offices, shops, and train stations. Everyone seemed to have somewhere important to be. Emma checked her watch. 7:52 a.m. If she caught the 8 o'clock bus, she would arrive at work on time. She started walking faster, then faster. Soon she was almost running. The bus stop appeared at the end of the street, and there it was. The bus, waiting just a little farther. Emma ran. Her shoes hit the sidewalk. Her bag bounced against her shoulder. Just a few more steps. The bus doors closed. "No," she shouted. The driver looked forward. The bus pulled away. Emma stopped running. She watched the bus disappear around the corner. For a moment, she stood there breathing heavily. She felt frustrated. She felt unlucky. She felt angry. Of course. Why today? Why now? The next bus would arrive in 20 minutes. 20 minutes. She sighed deeply and sat down on a bench near the bus stop. At that moment, she had no idea that missing that bus would change everything. As Emma sat on the bench, she noticed an elderly man sitting a few feet away. He wore a brown coat and a flat cap. His hands rested on a wooden cane. He looked calm, peaceful, unlike everyone else rushing through the city. The man smiled. "Tough morning?" he asked. Emma laughed softly. "You could say that. The bus? Yes. I saw you running." Emma smiled despite herself. "I almost made it." "Almost," the man said. Then he looked toward the road. "You know, sometimes the things that annoy us are actually helping us." Emma raised an eyebrow. "What do you mean?" The old man chuckled. "If I knew that answer every time, I'd be a very rich man." Emma laughed. The conversation should have ended there, but something about the man's voice made her stay. The next few minutes passed quickly. They talked about weather, about the city, about life. The man told funny stories about mistakes he had made when he was younger. Emma found herself smiling more than she had all morning. Then the old man suddenly became quiet. He looked across the street. His smile disappeared. His eyes narrowed. Emma followed his gaze. A little girl stood near the edge of the sidewalk. She couldn't have been older than 6 years old. She held a red balloon. No adult was beside her. The balloon slipped from her hand. It floated toward the road. The little girl chased it. Without looking, without thinking, directly toward traffic. Everything happened in seconds. The old man stood up immediately. "Watch out," he shouted. The girl kept running. A car was coming. Fast, too fast. Emma's heart jumped. People nearby turned their heads. Someone screamed. The little girl stepped into the street. Then, a cyclist swerved sharply. The car driver hit the brakes. Tires screeched. The girl froze. For one terrifying second, the entire world seemed to stop. Then silence. The car stopped only a few feet away. The little girl stood unharmed. A woman came running from a nearby store. She grabbed the child and hugged her tightly. Tears filled her eyes. The crowd slowly relaxed. People began breathing again. Emma realized her hands were shaking. The old man sat back down. Neither of them spoke for several moments. Finally, he looked at Emma. "If you had caught your bus," he said quietly, "you wouldn't have seen that." Emma stared at him. A strange feeling moved through her chest. Because he was right. If the bus doors had stayed open for 2 more seconds, she would have been gone. She would never have met him. She would never have seen what happened. And suddenly, missing the bus didn't feel like bad luck anymore. The next bus arrived. Emma stood up. "So this is where we say goodbye," she said. The old man smiled. "Maybe." Emma stepped toward the bus. Then she paused. "Wait." The old man looked up. "I never asked your name." The man smiled again. "Henry." "I'm Emma." "Nice to meet you, Emma." "Nice to meet you too." She climbed onto the bus. As it pulled away, she looked through the window. Henry lifted his hand. Then he disappeared behind the moving traffic. Emma arrived at work 15 minutes late. Normally, her manager hated late arrivals. But when Emma entered the office, something strange happened. Nobody seemed concerned. In fact, everyone was gathered around a conference room. People were whispering excitedly. Emma walked over. "What's happening?" she asked. Her coworker, Jason, grinned. "You haven't heard." "Heard what?" "The company president is here." Emma blinked. "The president?" "Yep." Apparently, the president had arrived unexpectedly that morning. He was visiting different departments, talking directly with employees, listening to ideas. As Jason explained the situation, Emma suddenly remembered something. 3 weeks earlier, she had submitted a proposal, an idea for improving customer service. It was a small project. She never expected anyone important to read it. But now, What if they had? A few minutes later, a manager appeared. Emma, her stomach tightened. Yes, the president would like to speak with you. Her eyes widened. May? The manager nodded. Emma felt every person in the office looking at her. She swallowed nervously, then followed the manager into the conference room. Inside sat 3 executives, and at the center of the table sat a friendly-looking man in his 60s. He stood up when she entered. Emma, right? Yes, I read your proposal. Emma's heart started racing. The president smiled. I liked it. That was all he said. 4 simple words. I liked it. But those 4 words changed everything. For the next 20 minutes, they discussed her idea. The president asked questions. Emma answered carefully. At first, she was nervous. Then something surprising happened. She relaxed. She became confident. The conversation flowed naturally. When the meeting ended, the president shook her hand. I think you have potential. Potential? Nobody had said that to her in a very long time. Emma left the room feeling different. Lighter, stronger, but the story doesn't end there. Because later that evening, something happened that made the entire day feel even more unbelievable. After work, Emma decided to walk home instead of taking the bus. The weather had improved. The clouds were gone. Golden sunlight covered the city streets. She found herself thinking about Henry, the old man at the bus stop. His words, his stories, his smile, especially that strange sentence. Sometimes the things that annoy us are actually helping us. The more she thought about it, the more meaningful it felt. She reached a small park. Children played near the swings. Dogs chased balls across the grass. People sat on benches, enjoying the evening. And then Emma stopped walking, because sitting on a bench near a fountain was Henry. Emma smiled immediately. What were the chances? A city filled with millions of people, hundreds of streets, thousands of benches, and somehow there he was again. She walked toward him. Henry. The old man looked up. His face brightened. Emma. They both laughed. I can't believe it's you, Emma said. Neither can I. Do you come here often? Almost every evening. Emma glanced at the fountain. Water sparkled in the setting sun. It seems today keeps getting stranger. Henry nodded thoughtfully. Sometimes life enjoys surprising us. Emma sat beside him. For a while, they simply watched the people in the park. Children laughing, birds landing near the fountain, a couple sharing ice cream. The peaceful atmosphere felt completely different from the stressful morning. Finally, Henry spoke. You seem happier. Emma smiled. I think I am. Then she told him everything. About the unexpected meeting, about the company president, about her proposal, about hearing the word potential. Henry listened carefully. When she finished, he nodded slowly. That's good. Good. Very good. Emma looked at him curiously. You don't seem surprised. Henry chuckled. I'm old. That's your explanation. It explains many things. Emma laughed. Then Henry became serious. You know something interesting. What? Most people think confidence comes before opportunity. Emma waited, but often opportunity comes first. Emma thought about that. The president's meeting, the conversation, the confidence she felt afterward. Maybe Henry was right. Before she could answer, a young boy ran across the grass, chasing a soccer ball. The ball bounced toward the fountain. Henry stood slowly. His movements looked stiff. Careful. Emma noticed it immediately. Are you okay? Henry smiled. Just old knees. The answer sounded simple, but something about it felt incomplete. The evening continued. They talked for almost an hour. About travel, books, mistakes, dreams. The conversation felt effortless, as if they had known each other for years, instead of one day. Eventually, the sky turned orange, then pink, then purple. Streetlights flickered on. Emma checked the time. I should go. Henry nodded. Probably. Neither of them stood immediately. Both seemed reluctant to leave. Finally, Emma asked a question that had been sitting in her mind all day. Henry, can I ask something? Of course. Why were you sitting at that bus stop this morning? Henry looked toward the fountain. For a moment, he didn't answer. Then he smiled softly. I was waiting for someone. In a way, Emma felt her curiosity grow. For who? Henry looked at her. Maybe for you. Emma laughed. Come on. I'm serious. She stared at him. What do you mean? The old man leaned back. Sometimes people enter your life for a reason. That wasn't really an answer. And somehow, it only made her more curious. But before she could ask another question, Henry stood. Tomorrow. Same park. Emma smiled. Okay. Then they went their separate ways. As Emma walked home, she couldn't stop thinking about Henry. Who was he really? Why did he seem to know exactly what to say? And why did it feel like he was hiding something? That night, she fell asleep faster than usual. For the first time in months, her mind felt calm. But the next morning brought a surprise she never expected. Emma arrived at work early, very early. She felt motivated, excited, ready. The energy from yesterday still followed her. As she entered the office, Jason rushed toward her. You need to see this. Emma blinked. See what? Jason handed her a newspaper, a local business newspaper. Emma looked down and froze. There on the front page was a photo, a large photo of the company president, and standing beside him was Henry. Emma stared. Her heart skipped a beat. What? Jason pointed. You know who that is? Emma couldn't speak. Under the photo was a headline. Former business leader supports youth innovation program. Emma read the article quickly. then again and again, because she couldn't believe what she was seeing. According to the article, Henry wasn't just an elderly man from a bus stop. Years ago, he had built one of the most successful companies in the region. People considered him a business legend, a mentor, an advisor, someone respected by leaders across the country. Emma looked back at the photograph. It was definitely him. The same smile, the same eyes, the same cap. Jason noticed her expression. Wait, he squinted. Why do you look shocked? Emma slowly lowered the newspaper. I met him. Jason laughed. No, seriously. I'm serious. You met Henry Parker. At a bus stop. Jason stared, then laughed again, then stopped laughing when he realized she wasn't joking. The entire office buzzed with excitement, but Emma barely heard any of it. Her mind kept returning to one thought. Why hadn't Henry told her? Why hide something so important? That evening, Emma practically ran to the park. The fountain appeared ahead. Children played nearby. People walked their dogs. And there he was, exactly where she expected. Henry looked up as she approached. You found out. Emma stopped. You knew I would. Probably. She held up the newspaper. You built a company. Henry nodded. You advised presidents. Another nod. You've given speeches around the world. Sometimes. Emma crossed her arms. And you didn't mention any of this. Henry smiled. Would it have changed our conversations? Emma opened her mouth, then closed it. Maybe, maybe not. Henry patted the bench beside him. Emma sat down. For several moments, neither spoke. Then Henry asked a question. What did you think of me before reading that article? Emma smiled. I thought you were kind. Henry nodded. Anything else? Wise? Another nod. Funny? Henry laughed. Good answer. Then he looked at her seriously. And after reading the article, Emma hesitated. Successful? Henry nodded. Exactly. The word hung in the air. Successful. After a moment, he continued. People spend too much time looking at titles. Emma listened carefully. They see success before they see the person. The park suddenly felt very quiet, even though people surrounded them. Henry's voice remained calm. I wanted you to meet me, not my reputation. Emma looked down. She understood, more than she expected. Then Henry surprised her again. Tell me about your dream. My dream, the one you're afraid to say out loud. Emma froze, because she knew exactly which dream he meant. The dream she almost never shared. The dream that felt too big, too unrealistic, too risky. She took a slow breath. I want to start my own business someday. Henry smiled immediately. As I suspected, Emma laughed nervously. But it sounds ridiculous. Why? Because people like me don't build companies. Henry looked directly at her. People like you. The question landed harder than she expected. Emma suddenly realized how strange her words sounded. Henry continued, "What exactly are people like you?" She didn't have an answer. For the first time, she noticed something. Most of the limits she believed in had never come from reality. They came from fear. Fear of failure, fear of judgment, fear of disappointment. Henry watched her quietly. Then he pointed toward the fountain. "What do you see?" Emma looked confused. "Water. What else? A fountain. What else?" She shrugged. "I don't know." Henry smiled. Most people stop looking too soon. Emma stared at the fountain again. Children laughing, light reflecting on water, coins at the bottom, ripples moving outward. Suddenly she understood. There was always more to see, more to notice, more to learn, more possibilities than first appeared. Just like life, just like herself. Weeks passed, then months, and something remarkable happened. Emma kept meeting Henry. Not every day, but often enough. Every conversation left her with something valuable. A new perspective, a better question, a different way of thinking. Slowly, almost without realizing it, she changed. She spoke up more during meetings. She shared ideas. She volunteered for projects. She stopped apologizing for every opinion. Her confidence grew, not all at once, little by little, day by day. And then one afternoon, nearly 6 months after missing that bus, Emma received an email that would test everything she had learned. She opened it, read the first line, then read it again, because it felt impossible. A major investor wanted to discuss a business idea she had recently submitted. Emma's hands trembled. The opportunity she had dreamed about was suddenly real, exciting, terrifying, life-changing. And in that moment, only one person came to mind. Henry. She immediately went to the park. The fountain stood exactly where it always had. The trees swayed gently in the wind. Children played. Dogs barked. People talked. But one thing was different. Henry wasn't there. Emma waited. 10 minutes, 20 minutes, 30 minutes. No Henry. The next day she returned. Nothing. The day after that. Still nothing. A week passed. Then 2. Henry had disappeared. No messages. No explanation. Nothing. Emma felt surprisingly sad, because somewhere along the way, Henry had become more than a friendly stranger. He had become a friend, a mentor, someone important. Then one evening, as she prepared to leave the park once again, she noticed something attached to the bench where Henry always sat. A small envelope with her name written on it. Emma. Her heart began to race. Slowly she picked it up and opened it. Inside was a handwritten letter. The first sentence made her eyes widen, and by the time she reached the final line, tears had filled her eyes. Emma sat down immediately. Her hands trembled as she unfolded the letter. The paper felt old, carefully folded, carefully protected, as if every word mattered. She took a breath and began reading. Dear Emma, if you are reading this, then I haven't been to the park for a while. First, don't worry. Nothing terrible has happened. Life simply has a way of moving people in different directions. And sometimes the right goodbye happens before we realize it is a goodbye. Emma swallowed. A strange sadness settled inside her. She continued reading. When we first met, you thought you missed a bus. But what really happened is that you arrived somewhere else. Most people spend years waiting for life to begin. They tell themselves they will be confident later. They will be brave later. They will chase their dreams later. The problem is that later becomes never. Emma stared at the words. She remembered that Monday morning. The frustration, the disappointment, the feeling that everything was going wrong. And yet, that single missed bus had changed the direction of her life. She kept reading. I saw something in you on the very first day. Not talent, not intelligence, not ambition. Many people have those things. I saw curiosity, and curiosity is powerful. Curious people keep learning. They keep growing. They keep moving forward. A small smile appeared on Emma's face. The park around her seemed to disappear. Only the letter existed now. Only Henry's words. The next paragraph was underlined. If you remember only one thing I ever told you, remember this. Confidence is not something you find. Confidence is something you build. Emma read the sentence twice, then 3 times, because suddenly it explained everything. Every conversation, every lesson, every challenge. Henry had never tried to make her fearless. He had simply encouraged her to keep taking small steps forward. Step by step, conversation by conversation, choice by choice. She turned the page. A photograph slipped out. Emma picked it up. It showed a much younger Henry, standing beside a small office building. The building looked ordinary. Nothing special. No giant headquarters. No luxury tower. Just a simple building. Written on the back were 5 words. Everyone starts smaller than expected. Emma laughed softly through her tears. That sounded exactly like Henry. Then she returned to the letter. People often ask me how I became successful. They expect some secret formula, some magical answer. They are usually disappointed, because the truth is simple. I failed many times, more times than most people know. The difference is that I kept going. Emma remembered how often she avoided failure, how often she hesitated, how often fear stopped her before she even started. Suddenly, those fears seemed smaller, much smaller. The letter continued. Do you remember the little girl with the red balloon? Most people focused on the danger. I focused on something else. The second chance. Life gives us more second chances than we realize. The question is whether we notice them. Emma closed her eyes. She could still see the little girl, the balloon, the screeching tires, the relief afterward. Henry was right. Most people would only remember the danger. He remembered the opportunity, the gift, the second chance. The final page remained. Emma felt both eager and afraid to read it, because she knew the letter was almost over, and somehow she wasn't ready. Still, she continued. By now, I imagine you have received some kind of opportunity, something that excites you and scares you at the same time. If that's true, then good. It means you're growing. Growth always feels uncomfortable. If you're waiting until you're completely ready, you will wait forever. Emma looked toward the fountain, the investor meeting, the business idea, the opportunity. It was exactly what Henry described. Exactly. A chill moved through her. Then she read the final paragraph. One day, years from now, you will meet someone who doubts themselves, someone who feels stuck, someone who thinks they are not capable. When that day comes, do for them what someone once did for you. Listen, encourage, believe, not because you have all the answers, but because sometimes a few kind words can change an entire life. And finally, never forget, the best chapters of life often begin on the days that seem to go wrong. Your friend, Henry. Emma lowered the letters slowly. The park was quiet. The fountain continued flowing. Children continued laughing. The world continued moving. But inside, something had changed. Something important. For several minutes, she sat there without speaking, without moving, simply thinking. Then she looked up at the sky. The sun was beginning to set, just like the evening she first met Henry. A memory suddenly appeared. That first morning, the missed bus, the frustration, the disappointment. If someone had told her then what would happen over the next 6 months, she would never have believed it. Not in a million years. Yet here she was, a completely different person. Not because life had become perfect. It hadn't. She still had challenges, still had fears, still had uncertainty. But now she understood something she hadn't understood before. Growth doesn't happen all at once. It happens in small moments, small conversations, small decisions, small acts of courage. Emma folded the letter carefully, then placed it inside her bag. She stood up, took one last look at the bench, and smiled. "Thank you, Henry," she whispered. The following week, Emma attended the investor meeting. She was nervous, very nervous. Her heart raced before entering the building. Her hands felt cold. Her stomach twisted into knots. But then she remembered Henry's words. Confidence is something you build, not something you find. So she took a deep breath, opened the door, and walked inside. The meeting lasted nearly 2 hours. There were difficult questions, unexpected challenges, moments when she wasn't sure what to say. But she kept going. She stayed honest. She stayed calm. She stayed curious. And when the meeting ended, something wonderful happened. The investors wanted to continue. It wasn't a final victory. It wasn't instant success. But it was the next step. And that was enough. More than enough. Months turned into years. Emma's business slowly grew. Not overnight. Not magically. The journey included mistakes, failures, disappointments, unexpected setbacks, but it also included victories, friendships, learning, growth, and through it all, one lesson stayed with her. The lesson from a missed bus. One rainy afternoon, several years later, Emma found herself waiting at a bus stop. The city looked different now, but the feeling was strangely familiar. People hurried past. Cars moved through traffic. Rain tapped softly against the shelter roof. As she waited, she noticed a young woman sitting nearby. The woman looked upset, frustrated, defeated. After a few moments, the young woman sighed heavily. "I can't believe I missed it." Emma smiled. "The bus?" The woman nodded. "Yes." Emma looked down the road, then back at the woman, and suddenly she remembered everything. The bench, the conversation, the red balloon, the fountain, the letter. Henry. A warm smile spread across her face. The young woman noticed. "What?" Emma laughed softly. "Oh, nothing." Then she paused. Maybe not nothing. Maybe something important. Something worth passing on. Emma turned toward the young woman. "You know," she said gently, "sometimes the things that annoy us are actually helping us." The young woman raised an eyebrow. "What does that mean?" Emma smiled, the same smile Henry once gave her. And somewhere deep inside, she already knew. A brand new story was about to begin. If you enjoyed this story, take a moment to think about one thing that didn't go your way recently. Maybe it wasn't bad luck. Maybe it was the beginning of something you can't see yet. And remember, the next chapter of your life might start with something as small as a missed bus.